Today on Sports Central, we're going to be going over a major Big 12 matchup of week number 5, and that's going to be between Oklahoma and Iowa State. Of course, you got Oklahoma on one end. They got upset by K-State last week, so this is going to be a huge game and a very important one for them to try to rebound and turn their season around. Meanwhile, for Iowa State, they're off to a 1-1 start. They got a win last week against TCU, and they're looking to help improve their season with a major win here as well. So a very important game here for both of these teams, especially looking forward to how the seasons are going to go for both of them, because if you're thinking about it here, obviously both of these teams are looking to be in the top 3 of the Big 12 this season, and considering one of these teams is going to lead this game 1-2, it's a very important game in the end. We're going to be going over a full prediction and preview of this game here in this video, starting out with their team trends. Last week, Oklahoma lost to Kansas State once again, 35-38. And that was a game that Oklahoma should have won. I mean, there were many mistakes on Oklahoma that definitely should not have happened. But Kansas State did get the win in the end by 3. They ended up winning off of a field goal. But in the end, still, I mean, 30-35 is a score that, Oklahoma, they should have been on the other end of that. But as far as it goes for Iowa State, they beat off TCU by 3, 37-34. So that was a good win for TCU last week, especially coming off of a really rough game against Louisiana. But yeah, I mean, in the end, still for both these teams, they're sitting at 1-1. Oklahoma's currently on a 1-game losing streak. Meanwhile, Iowa State's trying to turn their season around, sitting with a 1-game winning streak. This game's going to be on Saturday, October 3rd, 7:30 p.m. Eastern in Ames, Iowa. So Iowa State will be at home for this matchup. Spread currently says Oklahoma by 6.5. So it's going pretty conservative on the Oklahoma end. So it's not really saying that Oklahoma's going to win in a blowout. But ESPN FPI does favor Oklahoma pretty heavily at a 70%, and then the Vegas prediction is saying 36-25 towards Oklahoma. So it's expecting a higher scoring game and an 11-point win for Oklahoma in the end. So that's what our 3 sources are saying. All 3 of them say Oklahoma will get a win in a somewhat close fashion. As far as their stat comparison goes, of course, Spencer Rattler for Oklahoma did not have a very good performance last week. I mean, he did put up 4 touchdowns, and he also put up 387 yards. I mean, his completion rate really was not all that bad, as he was 30 for 41. But the main stat line that does not look good for him last week was his interceptions. He threw 3 picks in the loss to Kansas State, which you just cannot do that if you're going to be a good team. Spencer Rattler with 3 interceptions, you can't throw 3 picks and expect to win a game. So he's got to get that figured out for sure coming into this Iowa State matchup. And I mean, in the end, I mean, all quarterbacks throw interceptions for sure. I mean, it's bound to happen, but 3 picks in a game, that was pretty concerning out of Spencer Rattler last week in their matchup against Kansas State. But as far as it goes for the running back core, you got Seth McGowan, 13 attempts for 73 yards and 1 touchdown is what he had. And as far as it goes for the receivers, you got Drake Stoops, 3 receptions, 93 yards and a touchdown. You also have Austin Stogner, 5 receptions for 83 yards, and then Theo Weiss, 4 receptions for 43 yards. As far as it goes for Iowa State, Brock Purdy had a great performance last week, 18 for 23, 211 yards and a touchdown. Breece Hall also had a great game, 18 attempts for 154 yards and 3 touchdowns. Landon Akers was their top receiver, 2 receptions, 60 yards. You also had Joe Skates, 1 reception for 44. And lastly, Charlie Kolar, 5 receptions for 27 yards. So you saw a lot of action out of him as well last week. So that's what it looks like for your stat comparison. Obviously, you got 2 great quarterbacks here, especially Brock Purdy. I mean, I'm expecting him to be a top 3 quarterback in the Big 12 this season. But Spencer Rattler, I mean, he's a great quarterback. He was a 5-star recruit quarterback, which, I mean, obviously last week was only his first game. But yeah, you can't throw in 3 interceptions once again. I mean, that's not something that Oklahoma's really used to, and that's not something that really any team can do and still win. So yeah, you got to lower that interception rate. But in the end, I mean, if you're not looking at the interceptions all around, he did have a pretty decent game. Once again, looking at nearly 400 yards there out of him last week with 4 touchdowns. That's not bad. He's definitely got a lot of potential in my eyes. As far as their key points go, Oklahoma had a terrible week 4, obviously. I mean, that was just a terrible game against Kansas State. Really nothing went their way. But Iowa State on the other end, they did bounce back against TCU as they had a pretty good win there. Once again, Spencer Rattler does need to be better if Oklahoma's going to be a national contender this season. Major game for both teams, though, once again. I mean, you got, obviously, one team's going to be 1-2 coming out of this game, which that is not a way that you want to begin your season. So, yeah, Spencer Rattler, he's got to be better. And, I mean, if he's better this week, that's definitely going to be a huge positive for Oklahoma moving forward. Iowa State does need to start quick in this matchup, though, I really do think. I think whichever team starts quicker in this matchup will get the win. And that's something that we've seen a lot of especially in the past few games as far as the college football world goes. Obviously, Kansas State came back to beat Oklahoma, which really was a big surprise. But I mean, yeah, we've seen most teams that start quick in their games end up getting the wins in the end. So Iowa State especially, they can't let Oklahoma get 2 or 3 touchdowns on them early on in the game. Iowa State definitely needs to start quick here if they're going to get a win, which I don't think Iowa State gets the win here in the end. I think Oklahoma does get a win, and they're going to leave this matchup 2-1, which is going to be huge for Oklahoma. I mean, if Oklahoma were to start 1-2, that would be just insane. But yeah, your halftime score is going to be 21-17. Oklahoma will lead it at the half, but I do think this game goes back and forth quite a bit, especially in that first half. I do think we see Iowa State lead Oklahoma for a decent part of your first half, but in the second half, we do see Oklahoma pull away in the end. They will double their score and get up to 45 points, and they will beat off Iowa State 45-27 in this one. Obviously, Ames has been a tough spot for Oklahoma in the past couple of years. We have seen Iowa State upset Oklahoma in Ames a couple of times in the past, and especially recently, so that is something that Oklahoma, I'm sure, is aware of at this point. But your final score, 45-27, Oklahoma will get the win here in the end in a great matchup, somewhat of a high-scoring one as well. But do let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this matchup. Let me know your score predictions, team predictions, etc. I would like to hear your thoughts on that. But yeah, thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed this preview, slap a like on it, subscribe as well. Really helps out the channel. I'd really appreciate that. But as always, thanks again for watching, guys. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central, and I will see you all later.